Okay, hello guys. Welcome.
Everyone.
Here's a nice banner. Yeah, guys. So welcome to our 5 o'clock, 6 to 7 focus. We you probably have met us by now. I think we've been doing these webinars. I think for about 7 to 8 weeks now. Sean and I, especially, we do a lot of these webinars together. So chances are you have seen us before. But if for some reason you have not, for example, Ileana, maybe, I don't know, the name doesn't ring a bell. So maybe we have never had a lesson together. So we'll do some brief intros in any case. So my name is Thiago. I'm 29 years old. I live in Milan. We both work in the central Maies here in Milan. I am from Brazil originally, but I grew up in California. And then joining me today, we have.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean. I am Irish. I come from Ireland. I have lived in Milan since September and worked in the school since then.
Mhm. Great, and we have some people saying hi already. Yeah, guys, let us know where you guys are from, where you're chatting from as well. So here we have Sonia. She's 12. She's from Sri Lanka, but lives in Milan. Great, Sonia, welcome. Federico is writing to us from Treviso. Marina lives in Bari. Sonia is actually one of our students at Meravigli. Oh, okay, Sonia. I don't know if I ever. I guess you're probably one of the teens groups then. So yeah, welcome. Nice to chat with you. And Ileana
Yeah, I
is
think
also writing to us from Trieste. So fantastic, guys. We hope you guys had a nice long weekend. I know it can be a little bit difficult, the holidays being lonely, especially if you usually celebrate Easter. But hopefully you were able to, still maybe stay connected, even if it's through video calls and whatnot. So yeah, I'm actually going to ask you, Sean. So how was your Easter weekend? Did you do anything different? What did you do?
yeah, I mean, like you said, it was a bit of a lonelier Easter than usual. I would normally be with my family. I did call them, I video called, and yeah, I had a nice day. I cooked something a bit more special than
Mm-hmm.
usual, slightly more, and I just had some chocolate, and yeah, just I was on my own. Did you do anything?
Uh, Nothing big really. I didn't even talk to my family on Easter, but we don't celebrate it that much. I remember maybe when I was little, we would celebrate it more often, but we haven't done it in years, so it doesn't really feel like a holiday that I am missing out on or anything. I think Christmas is one that I feel a lot more kind of not lonely, but I do miss my family more, I think, during Christmas. And but I guess
Mm,
yeah, I did make some food. I baked another cake, but that has been my new normal anyway. So I don't think it was anything
okay.
that different from the usual. I didn't
Yeah.
have any chocolate eggs, unfortunately, but I
Mm.
hope to buy some this week when I go to the supermarket if they still have them.
No, there's lots of chocolate eggs and Columbus and things. Yeah.
Perfect. So I'll be sure to check
Mhm.
it out then. And yeah, guys, let us know as well. I see there are lots of people here today. Tell us how your Easter went, if you did anything, if you had a lot of chocolate, or if you had anything special to eat. Let us know in the comments. Now, today we are talking about apartment hunting. And this can be a funny expression because what does hunting usually mean, Sean, when we see that word?
So hunting is usually catching and killing animals. So like in the forest with a gun, something like that. So it's a bit like that looking for an apartment sometimes, I guess.
It can feel like it, yeah. It's just hard to find. So yeah, apartment hunting, guys, is basically when you're searching for an apartment. Maybe you move to a new city, you're looking for a new place to live. This is something that you have to do. You have to hunt for an apartment. And Sean, what are the two things that we are discussing today?
So we'll be describing an apartment, so looking at the kind of vocabulary, adjectives, describing words to talk about an apartment, and asking and answering questions about a new apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a context where you have to ask a lot of questions. And as I'm sure you know, asking questions in English can be a bit tricky. So we're going to practice that.
Exactly. So do participate a lot because if you make errors, we're here to help you guys out. So Sonia is telling us that she made an apple pie for Easter. Nice. Actually, apple pie is one of my favorites. That's really nice.
Really?
Yeah, I really like
Mm.
apple pie. Apple and pumpkin. I think those are probably my two favorites.
Yeah, we
Uh,
make apple crumble where I'm from, which is sort of similar but a bit different. It's not a pie, it's just kind of sort of sweet breadcrumbs with apple. It's quite nice.
that's nice. But is it like in the shape of a pie, or is
No,
it just like mixed?
it's kind of like a tiramisu or something. It's just a soft mix that you put in a bowl.
That sounds nice, actually. Cool. So, guys, here are a few questions for you to start answering so we can get some nice vocabulary and we can know your experience with apartment hunting. So, here are the questions. Do you enjoy hunting for an apartment? So, do you like the process, maybe going online, looking at ads, visiting places, maybe trying to agree on the price, etc.? Do you like that process? When was the last time you hunted for an apartment and what happened? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Did you find an apartment quickly? Did it take you many months to find it? So let us know your experience with this a little bit. Um, what about you, Sean? So, how was your experience finding your studio in Milan?
So the last time I was hunting for an apartment was not so long ago. It was around November of last year. And also during the summer, because I moved to Milan in September. So I found a sort of temporary accommodation from September until November. And in November, I had to find something else, and it was difficult. I didn't enjoy it much. I think Milan is a competitive market. There's lots of people looking for an apartment, and it's also quite expensive in terms of what you can find and what you can get. And I do speak Italian, but my Italian is not perfect. And this is the kind of situation where you really want to be completely mastered a language if you're going to speak it in these important situations. So that was a bit challenging. But after around a month in December, I found an apartment and I'm very happy and I've been there since. So in the end, it was okay. How about you? Have you found finding apartments in Milan was difficult?
I've had different experiences with it. So I've lived in three different apartments here. The first time it was surprisingly easy. So what I did was I looked for a place that was free for 1 year on Airbnb. And then once I found a nice apartment, I made a booking for I think a month. I wrote to the owner of the apartment. I said, okay, I'm gonna stay. I will be your guest for a month. If you would like me to stay long term and I'm happy with the house, and then we can kind of see about that. And so that was great. So that's what I did. I did a 1 month stay. And then he ended up then renting the apartment regularly for me after that. So that was actually super, super easy. Um, then the second time around, I moved in with a friend. And so that was also quite easy because the apartment was already available. I didn't have to search for it. But then the third, my current apartment, it took me, I think, 4 or 5 months of writing to
Wow.
different people, visiting apartments, and then, not getting anything. So it took a really long time. It was definitely very stressful as well. And I cannot imagine doing this without speaking Italian. It would be very,
Yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, some of the teachers in our school have to do it, and I really wonder how they manage.
Yeah, exactly. So we have a few answers here. Let's see. Sonia says definitely nope. And I would just correct your definitely there, Sonia, but nice word that you use. Definitely not, maybe even. Definitely not. Because I'm hunting an apartment since January, and plus I imagine in this time it's really difficult because you cannot even leave your house to go look for another house, can you? It must be. I don't think it's a valid
Yeah, I
reason that
think
the
it's maybe
police
a
would
bit.
accept. So yeah, that sounds
Mm.
quite tricky. Ariana says, often I hunt for apartments on Airbnb. Oh, great, just like I did as well. So the last time that I hunted an apartment was a year ago in Prague. The apartment was very nice and cheap. Great, great. Yeah, I know Prague in general. If you're paying in euros, it can definitely be quite cheap to stay there, to eat in general. And Ileana says it depends if you have time to hunt for it. Maybe you need it. Yeah. I think that's when it gets quite stressful. It's when it becomes a need.
Yeah, I found it quite stressful because I needed somewhere kind of from December. I couldn't really push my accommodation any further. And yeah, when there's a time limit, I had to spend all my free time searching, responding immediately to people all the time. I was thinking about it all day. It was too much.
Yeah. Yeah, one service that that ultimately is the one that I use to just kind of find this apartment it's a service called Spot a Home. And
Yeah.
they basically, it's sort of like an Airbnb service, but for rentals. And so what you can do is that you
Um,
can visit the apartment virtually. They have someone who comes to the house. They take 360-degree photos of every room, and they also do a video tour of the house. And so that it's certified, you know what it will look like. They have all the information there, and you do everything through their platform. And it's much cheaper than a traditional agency. You pay, I think I only paid like 200 as a service fee. That was it. That's all I had to pay for it. Which, considering it's an apartment, I
mhm,
think it's not very much. Um,
mm. Yeah,
cool.
I had to go with a kind of a real estate service, a renting service, and it was kind of I had to pay them a month's rent, which isn't actually that much for that kind of service.
Yeah.
So the websites are sometimes better.
Yeah, definitely. Because sometimes you don't find a lot of just people renting it online, or if they do, the competition is so big that everyone's fighting within minutes. It's already the viewings are all booked.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Raffaele, I'm hunting an apartment in London, but I can't leave because oh gosh, Raffaele, that's very unfortunate because it's also quite
Mm.
risky to rent a place without seeing it. It can always be a surprise. And usually not a very positive surprise when you're talking about apartments.
No, definitely not.
Federico, I'm not looking for an apartment right now, but I'd love a penthouse. Yeah, penthouse would be lovely.
I
For
think we
those of
all
you
would.
guys who don't know, a penthouse, that's an apartment on the very last floor. It tends to be bigger. Sometimes you even have two floors. You might have an extra top part to it. It's a penthouse. And sorry for the delay. I'm Katerina. Welcome, Katerina. And she says, my sister has lived in Berlin for about 1 year for work. And before she left, I helped her to hunt for a small flat where nowadays she's living with her. Okay, good. So you also helped her find an apartment there. Great. And welcome, Valeria, as well. So great, guys. Awesome answers. Keep them coming. It's really nice that you're all participating so much. Good. Now, another word, I guess, that we mentioned before that could be nice to mention. So we said that Sean, he lives in a studio apartment. Do you want to tell them what that is, Sean?
So a studio apartment is generally everything is in one room, and you also have a bathroom, which is separate, unless it's a really bad studio apartment. But
We would hope.
yeah. So my current apartment, I have at one end of the room, I have the bed, which is on a kind of mezzanine. It's higher level. And then at the other hand, I have the kitchen, and I also have a seating area in the corner. So it's all in one space, in one room. We say a studio apartment. Hmm.
Exactly.
And how many rooms are in your apartment, Thiago?
So in my apartment, so I have basically a pretty large area, kind of like an open plan kitchen, dining room, and living room all in one. And that's on the upstairs. And then there's also a bathroom up here. Like that's the main bathroom. And then downstairs, there is kind of like a study, and then 2 bedrooms and an extra smaller bathroom. So it's, yeah, it's quite large, I think, especially considering it's Milan. It
Yeah.
is a little bit outside the city, but I'm quite happy with the size. Yeah, right now it's 3 of us living here. So I think it's a pretty decent size.
Mhm. Yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we're gonna continue, but if you're still answering, one or two of these questions, keep them coming. So we're gonna look at an apartment ad. Sonia Sichago, are you? No, I don't live alone. So yeah, it's a very big apartment for one person. I live with 2 other people, and the people that you live with, we call them flatmates. Flatmates. Or I think technically speaking, it's incorrect to call it a roommate unless you share the same room. But in the US, I notice it's quite common for
Yeah.
people to say roommates, even if you don't share the same room. So you can say flatmate
Mhm.
or roommate. Yeah, because in the US, we don't really use the word flat. We say apartment. But I have never heard apartment mate, the housemate. But yeah.
Yeah. We say a housemate a lot in Ireland, also because we don't have so many apartments.
It's
Most of
more
us live in
houses.
houses, housemates.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that would have yeah, no, it's too much space for me, too much to clean as well for one person. Rafaele says, I have a house. In this case, a house. We don't need the N there, Rafaele. I have a house in the mountain. When tenant, ooh, yeah, nice word, tenant. Yeah, that's the person who lives, who should pay the rent. Sorry to hear that, Rafaele. Is this something that happens regularly, or is it only because of the current situation? Because I know for some people it has been difficult to pay rent if they have maybe lost their jobs or they haven't been working very much. So I have heard on the news that it's quite common these days. Let us know. In the meantime, we're going to be looking, guys, at an apartment ad. So ad is a short for an advert, which is something that you publish. You can publish it online, on a newspaper. It's information about something you're trying to sell or rent. So here we have an example of an apartment ad. I'm going to ask Sean if you could please read this info.
Sure thing. So, spacious, one-bedroom apartment, fully furnished, newly renovated kitchen and dining area, fresh paint, brand new fans and lighting. Great location, only 10 miles to downtown Atlanta. $795 for rent. Please contact Mark at 770-555-9739 with questions and to schedule an appointment.
Exactly. So a few words that you might not know here. I think fan is one of them. So fan, guys, this is something that you need in the summer. It rotates and it makes the air move around the room. And so it can kind of be refreshing when it's very hot. Okay, of course, you can also have an air conditioning, which is even fresher than a fan. But if you don't have air conditioning, because you also need to install it, it's not so simple, you can always buy a fan. Okay, and you can have a ceiling fan, which is something that is fixed on your ceiling, or just like a regular fan that moves around. Okay, maybe Sean, do you want to explain if an apartment is fully furnished, what that means?
Yes, so you talk about furnished or unfurnished. So an unfurnished apartment is empty. There is no furniture, and fully furnished means there is all of the furniture. You could have partially furnished, where maybe they have a kitchen, appliances, and a bed, but let's say no tables, chairs, sofas, things like that. So it depends. Fully furnished means absolutely everything you need is there already.
Exactly. Yeah, that is one thing that personally I always need when I rent an apartment here in Italy. I always need it to be fully furnished because I don't have tables and chairs that I can carry around. So I do need that always. Yes, Sonia, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So yeah, fornita as in with the furniture. So tables, chairs, sofa, maybe, etc. Okay. If you guys have any other questions there relating to the ad, do let us know. But we will just move on so we can practice later. So here we have some adjectives that we can use when talking about an apartment, when we're reading an ad especially. So guys, let's all try to find the opposites. Okay, so for instance, what is the opposite of spacious, etc., etc. So here, I'll read this first column myself. Sean, maybe you can read the second one. So we have spacious, newly renovated, furnished, nice, and downtown.
Unfurnished, cozy, historical, in the suburbs, ugly.
Great. And Katerina already gave us the first one. I believe you're absolutely right. So spacious, the opposite would be cozy. Yeah, so cozy, in this case, you're basically saying that it is a small apartment, but you don't want to use the adjective small because it's not a nice adjective. You don't want a small apartment. But when you say cozy, you are communicating something that is welcoming, it is warm. So it tends to be a positive adjective to describe a smaller space. So spacious, cozy. And then, of course, guys, good job there. Newly renovated. So if it's newly renovated, most of the things there are modern, they're new. So the opposite of that, of course, would be a historical home, historical apartment. Then we have furnished. Katerina, you got that one as well. Furnished and unfurnished. Great. Nice and ugly. And then downtown in the suburbs. Good. Good. And I believe that, especially downtown, it's a very American expression. It's the center.
Yeah,
I guess you would say city center, right, Sean?
exactly. I would say at the city center, in the center, downtown is in American cities.
Exactly. And a big difference, I would also say, is that in the US, downtown is usually not a place where a lot of people want to live in. People tend to prefer the suburbs because it's more residential, it tends to be safer. So even though you might have to drive downtown, to go to work every morning, people still they appreciate the extra space, the green that you have in the suburbs. Okay. Raffaele, already good job here. You're trying some nice expressions that you would use when maybe talking to an apartment owner. So, Raffaele, can I help you? I would like an apartment with view. Maybe with a sea view, big enough for 3. Okay, so yeah, I think you're including some different elements there, Rafaela. So good job. I'm just gonna correct what you wrote there just to make it a bit more natural. So I would say, that's great. I'd like an apartment with a sea view. Um, And maybe you can even say a large apartment or a big apartment, like a big apartment with a sea view available for 3 months. And then maybe I would start a new sentence. How much is it? Or yeah, something like that. Okay. But yeah, nice example there. Cool. All right, guys. So any questions, let us know. Here we have, yes, here we go. So Raffaele basically already started this for us. So thank you. A conversation that you might have with the apartment owner, which we can also call I guess, like a landlord. But you did use a nice one time, Sean. I remember we did a focus. You said a landowner. Was that what you said? You can say
I would say landlord.
you would say landlord, but then what if it's a woman? Would you say landlady?
No, I would say it's my landlord, woman or man.
I would still say a landlord. Ah, because I have heard landlady, but then I can imagine not being very PC. Um, so I guess you could find, just in
No,
case you come across
that's a
it,
bit
guys.
strange.
Oh, really? So now I'm confused. I definitely heard it before. Yeah, a woman who owns and leases an apartment. So, all right, guys, I'm just gonna put it there just so you know if you come across that expression. But you can also say an owner, the apartment owner. All right, let's look at this conversation first. And then, guys, I want you to think of questions that you can ask the owner of the apartment. So if you're interested in a property, you're interested in an apartment, what would you want to know? Okay, so basically, we want you to continue the conversation. But here, let's do an example. So, all right, Sean, I'll be blue and you can be red. So, hello.
Hi, I'm calling about the apartment for rent. Is it still available?
Yes, it's still available. Would you like to see it?
Yes. May I ask a few questions first?
Sure. What would you like to know? So, here is where we want you guys to participate. We want you to give us questions that you think are important to ask the owner. And just remember, when you're asking questions in English, we can ask either a yes or no question. Okay, so in that case, we would use this form here. We can also call it azi, but I'm going to call it asv because then depending on the tense you're using, the verb is going to be a bit different, okay? So auxiliary, subject, and verb. And these are all the questions that are yes or no. For example, I imagine that Sean is the owner and I ask him, I don't know, does the apartment have a Balcony.
Yes, it does. Yes, it has
Exactly.
a balcony.
Exactly. So see, does is the auxiliary that I use when I have another verb. So see, I do have the verb have, so I use do. Does, auxiliary. The apartment, subject, have is the verb. So does the apartment have a balcony? We have a few good open questions coming here. So not yes or no, but open questions. Here, Katerina is asking, how far is the apartment from the center? Very nice. Sonia also had here, how many bedrooms? Good. And I would just maybe finish that question, Sonia. How many bedrooms does the apartment have? Okay, so in this case, we use quasv. We just have to put the question there. How many bedrooms does the apartment have? Okay. So here, Katerina, so the first question, perfect. They said, how far is the apartment from the center? The only verb that you have is verb to be. So the apartment is 5 kilometers from the center. But for the second question, you have another verb. You have the verb to cost. So if you have a second verb, we need to use do as the auxiliary. So how much does it cost? How much does it cost? Because we have the verb cost. Or you could potentially say, how much is it? The only verb we have is be. The apartment is 500 a month, for example. Exactly. Okay. So there you go, guys. Let us know any other questions that you have. Let's try to get to like at least maybe 10 questions from you before we move on, and we can look at some other examples. So far, we've got 3 here. So we have how many bedrooms does the apartment have? How far is it from the center? How much does it cost? So let's look at some other examples. Ah, nice one. Yeah. Can I bring my dog with me? Is there a dining room? Good. Is it in the kitchen? Nicely done, Sonia. Very good.
Sonia needs a separate dining room. Very fancy.
Yeah. I actually prefer it altogether.
Yeah, it's very kind of old world to have another dining room. My grandmother had a dining room, but I think these days it's quite normal to have one open space.
Yeah. It's also nice to be able to, especially if you have people over, you have guests and visitors, you can still talk to them while you're cooking. Whereas before, you kind of had to stay in the kitchen, whereas other people were maybe waiting in the living room or the dining room. Okay, let's see, Ariana, how many
Yeah, I
bedrooms?
did. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I grew up in a very open space house, and the problem was you could always smell what my father was cooking everywhere in the house, and you could always hear everyone talking all the time. So I now sort of appreciate a more traditional clothes, but it does have its advantages as well.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, for the smell, especially if someone's cooking something you really don't like, it could be. Yeah, for example, see, one smell that I really, really don't like that's being cooked is the smell of fish. Um, so luckily, no one
Yeah,
here at home eats
that's
fish, but otherwise,
very
that would be
pungent.
very. Ugh, I wouldn't be able to stay upstairs in that case. Katerina, are there any services like swimming pool, sauna? Nicely done, guys. Is it fully furnished? Exactly. All right, you guys are killing this. Good job. How many meters does it have? Very good. Yeah. You can even say if you're talking about apartments, we usually talk about square meters. Good. Is there a TV and sofa in the living room? Yes, there are. Okay, immediately. Great. Yeah, TV especially. I think that's a big luxury, and I don't usually find apartments that come with a TV.
No, I don't have a TV. Do you?
I finally bought one after years of living without one, yeah. But for a long time, I would just watch everything on my computer. And then last year, it was kind of like just in the moment. It was, we were having the Black Friday sales. And so I just decided, like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. And so I bought a TV and a PlayStation. Just if I'm going to spend, I might as well just like buy it all. So I did buy a TV and a PlayStation. But it's been quite nice. In fact, now it's hard sometimes to watch things on the computer because I got so used to the big screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Patrizia, good question. Yeah, if you have a car, that's a really good one. Does the apartment have a garage? Yeah, good. And I would just correct you, Patrizio, because in English we only use one P and we don't need the extra A there. So we would just say apartment. Okay. Is there a garden? All right, guys. Well, you're doing fantastic. So let's just move on, see if there are any other questions. Okay, here, I'll read the first few. Maybe Sean, if you want to finish them. So a few more questions, guys. Where is it located? Similar to that, what is the neighborhood like? So the neighborhood is the area around the apartment. How much are the utilities? So utilities, we're talking about electricity, gas, water, so all the extra expenses that you might have. How far is it from the university? Some of you asked that already. And is there public transportation nearby?
Mm-hmm. Are pets allowed? Some of you had that. Are there any facilities in the building? We had that as well. You used the word services. Services or facilities. Is there private parking or garage? Is the apartment furnished? So good job, guys. You got most of these.
Exactly. Really nice question here, Katerina, as well. How many people can share the apartment? Good. So yeah, so just a couple of, so let me just like write this down so you have it in the comments. So utilities are the electricity, gas, or water. Bills, that's also the word we use, bills. And then facilities. We have utilities, but facilities are more things around the apartment or building that make your life easier in a certain way. So for example, an elevator could be a facility. Some of you asked about a pool. That can be a facility. So all the extra things that make your life easier. All right. And okay, let us know if you have any last questions here. So now we're going to be looking at this. Okay, so we're going to review all these questions one last time. So imagine you're calling about an apartment and you want to know all of these questions right here. Okay, so how would you ask each of those questions? So let's try to remember the form as we saw before, but if you have another way, some of them you have more flexibility. You can ask in different ways. That works as well. Okay, and while you guys let us know in the comments, Sean and I can read this conversation again, just in case there's anything you might be missing. So, okay, so I answer the phone, I say hello.
Hi, I'm calling about.
Exactly. And then you have the questions that you guys asked, and then Sean, you would say,
Okay, great. When can I come see the apartment?
how about tomorrow at 3 p.m.?
Sure, sounds great.
Okay. See you then. Cool. So here we go. Question number one: where is it located? Perfect. How is the neighborhood? Wonderful. You can say, how is the neighborhood? Alternatively, you could say, what is the neighborhood like? And notice that with neighborhood, we can spell it in two different ways. You can put the U, which is more of a British sort of spelling. And in American, as you can see the way I spelled there, we don't have a U. It's just neighbor with an O. Cool.
Yes. Another word that I just thought of, which is very common, is we often talk about a viewing, which is a noun for a visit to the apartment. So if the landlord says, the apartment is available for a viewing on Sunday at this time, it's available for a visit, a viewing, you can also say.
Exactly. In the US, what's also quite common is open houses, though I think that's more common for when you want to buy an apartment, not so much for rent. But it's just like a day in which the house is available for a few hours, and then anyone can stop by. They can enter. There's usually food, and you can view the house. You usually have the real estate agent there. It's an open house. Okay, so let's see. Marina says, how much does the total of the rent and utility cost? Yeah, that works okay. How far is it from the bus stop or the train station? Or you can also say, are there any transportation near the apartment? Nicely done. In this case, Katerina, I would only put is because transportation is uncountable. So is there any transportation near the apartment? But the rest is perfect. Or there we go, Federico, is there public transportation nearby? And nearby means in the area, in the vicinity. Is there near the apartment public transportation? Maybe I'll just like switch it over. Is there public transportation near the apartment? Okay. Now, maybe here, Ariana, maybe you want to know about facilities, if you want to know what the apartment has, okay? And then what I would say is, what facilities does the apartment have? Okay, because then we're using here. The question is what facilities? Does is the auxiliary, the apartment is the subject, and have is the verb. So just so it's clear. Maybe for utilities, you could say, are utilities included in the price? Or something like that. Or does the price include utilities? Okay. So, Katerina, really good question. Difference between near and nearby. Now, when we say near, you have to specify. For example, I might ask Katerina, is there a bank near your house? Okay, so I'm specifying your house. We use nearby when the place that we're talking about is already obvious in the context. Okay, so if I'm calling about an apartment, I might ask, are there any banks nearby? Because the person that I'm talking to knows that I'm referring to the apartment. Okay, so near, I need to specify what. Nearby, we're basically saying in the vicinity, in the area. We don't need to specify. It's already understood from the context. Federico, excellent. Are pets allowed? Allowed is another word for permitted. Good. Okay, yeah, facilities, we did that one.
Hi, Sonia. Sorry, my connection is a bit back and forth, so I may miss things or be in and out, but hopefully I'll be able to stick in for the end. Sorry.
Yeah, the facilities we talked about before. So maybe just the last two, parking and if it's furnished. Is there a garage or free parking? Yep, perfect. And you could say in this case, there isn't a garage, but there is street parking. So street parking, it depends. Sometimes it can be free. A lot of the times, especially in cities, obviously it's not free. You do have to pay. You can also say, of course, do you have parking nearby? Good, because see, in the vicinity, we understand what we're talking about. Are there any facilities in the building? Excellent, excellent. And just to finish, guys, the last question about furnished. If you want to know if the apartment has furniture. And there you go, Sonia. Is it furnished? Good. Does the apartment, in this case, Matteo, I would just make sure the verb here, you can keep it in the infinitive because you already conjugated with does. That's already in the third person. So see, does the apartment have? So you can keep it in the infinitive in that case. But nice question. Does the apartment have private parking? Okay. So guys, we're getting to the end of our webinar here. Sean is just joining us back now, so he can say goodbye to you. But if you have any final questions, let us know in the comments here. Marina has how many people live there? Yeah, that's quite good as well. How many people live there? Okay. So yeah, any final questions? Let us know. We still have just maybe a few more seconds. But anyway, guys, we hope this was useful. It's definitely a situation that if you are ever in another country, you're looking for housing, you will definitely have to, use this type of language. Even if you are in a country that doesn't speak English, English is the language you'll probably be using to do this. Like someone mentioned about Prague before, you guys probably had to use some English. So yeah, we hope it's useful. You guys did a great job, really good participation. So really, thank you.
Yes, thanks everyone. Sorry about my connection, but Thiago was doing a great job anyways.
And I'll just say, does the apartment have wood? Maybe wooden, in this case, Katerina, I would just say wooden is the adjective, and then you would need the noun in this case, so wooden furniture. Does the apartment have wooden furniture? You could, sure, you could ask that. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a nice week, and we'll see you guys around.
Bye-bye.
Bye.